Hey everyone, welcome back. Bitcoin has just surged to a brand new all-time high, flying past $118,000 this week. In today's video, I'm going to break down exactly what happened, what the charts are telling us, and what could come next. Let's jump right in. Let's start with a quick recap of recent price action. On Wednesday, Bitcoin pushed through $112,000. On Thursday, it climbed to $113,700. And by Friday, it exploded up to $118,661. That's about a 26% gain for the year, a major move. And it's turning heads across the financial world. So now the big question is, where do we go from here? Let's talk key levels. On the upside, resistance is forming around the $120,000 to $121,000 zone. That is the first hurdle bulls need to clear. On the downside, we've got support sitting near $115,000, a level where buyers previously stepped in. Also lining up to the FIB retracement levels on the right side in red. If price holds these levels and bounces, it could act as a solid launch pad for another push to the upside, potentially making new highs. The RSI is hovering in overbought territory but not yet showing signs of divergence. The MACD remains in a clear bullish crossover, and moving averages like the 21 EMA are sloping up strongly. We're also seeing big moves in open interest and volume. In fact, over $20 million in shorts were liquidated within just 1 hour this week. That's a strong bullish signal. So what's fueling this rally? Few big things. First, institutional demand remains high. Spot ETFs continue to draw capital into Bitcoin. U.S. regulatory sentiment has turned more favorable, especially following recent executive orders and pro-crypto comments from key political figures. And last, the broader markets are in a risk-on mood. Bitcoin is catching that momentum. Personally, here's what I'm watching next. If Bitcoin breaks above 121,000, we could see a fast move to 135 or even 140,000 fast. But if it slips below a 115,000, we might be looking at a short-term correction. I'll be keeping a close eye on volume, structure, and whether momentum starts fading. If the bounce is an impulsive structure, meaning a 5-wave bounce breaking above the 121,500, then that would favor Bitcoin making another at new high. Let me show you something most people aren't thinking about during time like this. The stock market is actually getting ready for another pullback or correction in the coming weeks. You can see in my chart the S&P has a negative divergence, meaning we are seeing a higher high, but flat. Lower high on the MACD, here's why that matters. Bitcoin and the S&P still have a positive correlation. If one corrects, the odds usually favor the other will follow. If we go back to March, both the S&P and Bitcoin were consolidating before we got that massive correction in March. And then, if you look at April 8th, both bottomed and headed to the upside. Let me show you two more things that are very important and everyone in the markets should always be keeping a close eye on. First, the money manager sentiment, also known as the dumb money, are always on the wrong side or late to the party. Back in April, they were extremely bearish when in fact it was a great time to load up. Lucky for you, you now have this channel to help you. If you take a closer look, you will notice that sentiment hit in 100 in July. I covered everything you need to know about the market psychology in my first video. The social mood, the optimism, euphoria, panic, and so on. Which leads me to my second reason I think we will see a pullback. Before I get into this last point, I want to be super clear on one thing. I do not think we are going to see a crash, but simply a correction. Anywhere from 2 to 5%. Look at the Fear and Greed Index. Currently, we are sitting at a 75 in the extreme greed territory, not to mention a low VIX. So, in my humble opinion, based on all the facts I just shared, the market is ripe for a pullback in the coming weeks. That's it for today's Bitcoin update. If you found this helpful, give it a like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe for more no-nonsense crypto analysis. Thanks for watching, stay sharp, and trade safe. God bless you.